we have a special guest, Mr. Greg Ball, our newly elected Assemblyman. You probably wonder why do we invite Mr. Ball to a game show? Well, later on I will introduce him to you. You can tell he's a young man, young at heart, certainly is interested in our game show. But what we really wanted Mr. Ball to come to our show is to tell our kids and parents how the government works. Why is he getting into the government? Okay? As you know, we all have to live by the government rules, the laws, legislated, and so on. Okay? This way, you probably get the first-hand information from Mr. Ball how our state government in Albany works. All right. Now, our guest, Greg.
Sir, great to be here.
Welcome
Absolute
to our
pleasure.
Show, right?
Yeah, great to be here.
I know you've been busy. You've been giving a lot of talks and invited by many, many people. We're really delighted you could be here. Okay, we are a public channel show, small budget, but we do it with full 100% our energy and our heart. We reach a lot of people. I hope you will, tell them your experience.
Sure.
Okay. Before that, first let me ask you some maybe personal questions, and you feel free answer or not answer. Right? So, tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. I grew up in Pauling, New York, which is actually a small town in Dutchess County. Both my parents were blue-collar folks. I went to Pauling High School, public school. Then I went to the Valley Forge Military Academy, which at that point was the last all-male military academy in the U.S. Then I went to the United States Air Force Academy. I got my congressional nomination from Congresswoman Sue Kelly, who was the Congresswoman until last year from this area. Graduated from the United States Air Force Academy. Before graduating, was able to be a White House intern and get involved quite a bit with government and politics while a cadet. And then headed to Washington, D.C., where I served as an Air Force officer, and actually served as a protocol officer in Washington, D.C. for the Secretary of the Air Force, the Chief of Staff.
Oh, that's very impressive.
Yeah, it was a great job, specifically as the protocol officer on the staff of the 11th Wing Commander, and worked with many of the four-star generals in the Air Force.
So is this sort of come naturally to you, or somehow circumstances, one after another, make you into this political sort of career?
I love politics. I really do. I would say I love people. Some things about politics is a very tough business, and there are parts of politics that can be tough, they can be wearing, but at the end of the day, it's all about helping people, and I love it. I love the energy involved. I love the debate. I love the policy issues. I love the opportunity to make a difference, to fight the good fight, and to also fight against things that I don't think are so good, but given the opportunity to make my voice heard.
Bottom line is you really have to love it to be in politics.
Well, I don't know if you have to be. I think you should be. And I think you can see the difference. I think that no matter what the profession, whether the profession be a TV reporter or a politician, a veterinarian or a plumber, an electrician, a teacher, if you pour your heart into it and you have a passion, then you'll succeed, and no matter what.
Right.
And I think that you see that growing trend today of young men and women trying to do what they love instead of what they have to do or required to do or think that they're obligated to do, but
You're
find their
absolutely
passion.
right. I think this is a good lesson for our youngsters to know that whatever you do, you have to put your heart into it. You really have to love what you do to be a successful person, right?
Yeah, no, I agree, and I wake up every morning. Today, alone, I am going to be attending 9 different events in one day.
Right.
I was newly elected Assemblyman, took on a gentleman whose family controlled this seat for 72 years. And I was just elected and took office on January 1st. Since January 1st, I've met with over 300 constituents. I've attended 250 meetings plus, and I'm just love every minute.
Right. So this probably a good time to ask you the question then is, you're now into Albany. You had a few months time there now. How does our state government really work.
Yeah.
This is probably very educational to our youngsters listening to you.
Well, I think even before that, what does the state assemblyman do?
Right,
When
right. Okay, good.
When
Stop
I,
on that.
sorry to redirect, but when I ran against the gentleman who I took out, state assemblymen, state representatives in the state of New York are reelected 99% of the time.
Right.
And if you ask the vast majority of people in New York State, who's your state assemblyman? Many people don't know.
Right.
And I say that's not the residents' fault. That's not the voters' fault. That's that state assemblyman's fault for not being out in the community more and not explaining it.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a federalist system in the United States of America. So we share, and by definition, a federalist system means that we have a national government, a central government, and we have state governments.
Right.
And we share power between those two
Those
governments.
constituents, yeah.
Exactly. And so in the state, each state has a government, just
Right.
like we have a government at the national level. So I serve at the state level in Albany, which is our state's capital, dealing specifically with state issues. And it's all about legislation, how a bill becomes a law, working every day, whether it be on school tax reform, protecting our children against criminals, protecting our families against criminals, taxation issues across the board, not only school taxation, but tolls and bridges and authorities and everything in between. So it's a very complex job. It's a
So
full-time.
personally, you have a certain task to perform. You have your ideals and you have your constituents to sort of answer to and so on. But you still have to work within a sort of organization.
Right.
Right. That organization we call government.
Sure.
Right. So that part, how does it work? Being an assemblyman over there in Albany?
In New York State, and in every state, you have a governor. That's the executive. Just you have a president at the federal level. Then you have a legislature, a bicameral legislature. We have a Senate and an assembly.
Right.
I serve in the assembly, and we have a judicial branch, our judges. And I fight every day to introduce laws and to fight against laws. And then those are then brought to the Senate. And then the governor either signs them or vetoes them. And that's how a bill in some either becomes a law or doesn't become a law.
So the two branches, maybe you can explain to us, let's say somebody introduced a bill, how this bill sort of works in one, from assembly to Senate and somehow then to the government.
Well, New York State is a little peculiar because we've been deemed the most dysfunctional legislature in the United States of America. So maybe instead of how does a bill become a law, like in most states, we should talk about how a bill doesn't become a law.
Okay, good,
which,
good.
Which is unfortunate.
By elimination.
But yeah, but in theory, what should happen is that a rank and file member like myself, after talking to constituents, should be able to come up with a really good idea. And then he writes or she writes down that really good idea into the form of a draft bill.
Yeah.
Then that bill is then submitted for a number. I go to my colleagues and I ask them to co-sponsor that piece of legislation, to multi-sponsor that piece of legislation. Then it goes through the proper committee, and the committee eventually, because it's such a great idea, decides that they're going to allow it to get unbottled and come to the floor. Then there's a vote in either respective houses, and then it's passed forward, and that's how it works.
Good, I see. So in the federal level, somewhat similar.
Federal level is very similar.
Right.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, this is very educational to our children. Sometimes we do have these trips going to Albany. In fact,
Well, the next time you go, you got to let me know.
One time I went with my kids in bus and so on. But I tell you though, the tour and so on, and the photo session with the senator and so forth, is not same as we hear you to talk about this in sort of little detail, the steps by step, because otherwise people get the impression, oh yeah, here's the Senate room, here's the senator, then everybody grouped together, take a photo, come back.
Right.
That's fine to get an impression,
Yeah.
but I think we try to get you, at least in this talk show, is to get a little more meat into it, all right?
Well, and I invite you to come to Albany at any time. You have to understand that my perspective is that my seat is your seat because you're my constituent, which means you're my boss. And I ask that you come up to Albany and see what type of job I'm doing. You can sit with me on the floor. and see exactly what goes on
Good.
in
We
that
maybe
chamber.
we'll
Sure.
organize something like that
Yeah,
from
be
the
great.
Scramble show to
Yeah.
visit you. Okay, good.
Yep.
All
Maybe
right.
we get
let's-
Sheldon Silver to play with
right.
the words. You know, maybe we can spell fiscal responsibility, see if he can spell it.
Exactly. Good. Good. All right. When you touch that topic, I know you have this on your mind. You know, in terms of tax and education costs and so on. So, tell your audience.
Sure.
What is the most critical issues now? You know, sort of you think it's in the education.
Well, unfortunately, we live in an area where Westchester County is the highest tax county in New York State, which makes Westchester County the highest tax county in the country.
Right. Right.
Which makes Westchester County the highest tax county in the world.
Yeah. Famous
which
or
makes,
notorious.
which makes Westchester County the highest tax county in the galaxy.
Right.
Okay? And we unfortunately have a school tax system, the method that we have to procure funds, to exact the damage, the method of taxation that actually pits our seniors, our taxpayers, against our kids. And that's a dilemma that we need to solve at the state level, and I fight every day because the method of taxation that we have currently simply is not fair. And we should not be forced every budget cycle to decide whether our kids deserve a good education or whether many of our residents should be able to afford the homes in which they live. And you know, that's not a failure of teachers or of our students or of our local elected officials. It's a failure of a tax system that just doesn't work and has been placed upon us, upon our shoulders by dysfunctional government.
Yeah,
that's why I ran for office.
I agree with you. I think, you know, somehow we have to build a common goal shared by everybody. That is, the children's future is the most important thing. If our children don't have good future, nobody has future.
You're right.
Including seniors, right?
Yeah.
So if we could build that common goal, share that common goal, I think things should follow. Okay?
Right.
I mean, I agree with what you're saying that we need to sort of work, you know, to make the system physically responsible and effective in terms of delivering, you know, things that children need. By the way, I let you in on a secret. Last week.
You're not going to announce this on air, are you?
No.
Oh. Maybe it's a different secret.
No, I can't announce on air because it's already cast concrete. I can't back out anymore.
Yeah.
Last week I decided to run for school board.
Congratulations. Very good.
I know it's some people say it's a thankless job, but on the other hand, I feel somebody has to do it.
You're right.
And I hope that with some, you know, my background experience, so on and so forth, I could contribute to this. Okay, that's just, you know.
Now, when's the election?
I think it's May 15th.
May 15th.
Same time as the school budget is being
Sure.
voted on.
Sure.
Okay. In fact, the press is very efficient. The press already sent a reporter to got my background, everything.
Right.
You know, the family, wife, kids, name, so on and so forth. And then they sent a list of questions, which they say by Sunday we must have it. It's almost like the teacher telling the
Sure.
student, you got to hand in the homework.
Yeah.
So I already drafted that, and certainly I will hand it in because I think it's good to tell people what you think and you believe in. Particularly this time in this school district we're in Somers, there are 3 vacancies opening up, and there are 4 candidates now. I'm the 4th one. I hope I didn't, you know, cause people sort of think I'm a spoiler, but I think because of this, we will.
So you're getting into it late?
No, well, I decided almost just a few days before the deadline of submission.
Okay.
Anyway, because this, now there may be a debate. There may be a public forum. And it used to be the school board election is automatically voted in because a number of vacancies, number of candidates are equal. Therefore, there's no public forum.
It's nice that way.
Yeah. Nice that way for simplicity point of view. But I think the voters deserve to have more input.
Yep.
And I think it's good to put a pressure armed people who's serving on the board.
Oh, you're right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Sometimes I even feel that, hey, do you know how the budget is generated?
Right.
Do you know where the funds come?
Right.
If you don't, when you serve, and the learning curve could be very long, it could
Yeah.
be sort of inefficient. So I certainly, we met actually last week in a text meeting, because I went to there to learn. Okay, I want to know what people really think about. What is the issue? That's why I asked you the question.
Yeah.
What's the most critical issue in education in your mind? So okay, let's put that as a continue
Sure.
on. So you are fighting things, and you know it's a complicated job and
Yeah.
difficult job. So what do you think the help you need? What do you need from, say, your audience, your constituents that can help you?
Well, citizens need to get involved. They need to get involved in issues that matter, because many people feel that they just can't make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And really, that's an easy way out. It's an excuse, because a small group of concerned people, or even one person who is committed to making a difference and determined to changing the course of events in their community, or his or her community, they can make a difference. And you have to get involved. Like you're talking about, you have to hold your elected officials accountable. For instance, on the first of the year, I took a $100,000 pay cut. During the course of the campaign, I said that I would give up my full-time job. I was under no legal responsibility whatsoever to do that, but I did it because it was the right thing to do, because the people of this district deserved a full-time assemblyman. And had I not done that, I should have been held accountable. I have a host of campaign promises that I made. I stated I would be the hardest working state assemblyman this district has ever had. And I need to be held accountable. I look forward to the next campaign. I may be a little demented in that sense, that I love the rigors of the campaign. I went through 6 pairs of shoes, knocked down 11,000 doors.
6 pairs of shoes.
In the first campaign, I worked for nearly 2 years. But I love it, and I look forward to the next campaign, because it gives me the opportunity to communicate what I've accomplished. Any politician who fears the campaign, who fears that kind of debate, who fears that type of communication, isn't worth their salt and shouldn't be there in the first place.
Good, good. So you sort of just endorsed my action. I put my name in last minute, get 42 signatures, the minimum number of signatures. In fact, I got double of that. But I thought some people may think I'm just spoiling everybody else, nice, simple plan.
Yeah.
But I hope not. Okay, that is very, very helpful, what you just told us. Let me now spend a few minutes tell
Sure.
you our shows are about, because you will find that we are doing this for the community, for the schools, for the children, for a very noble cause. The Scramble games, it's sort of like Scrabble, right? It's a word game. You know Scrabble, probably.
Yeah.
But the Scrabble game is a game that people sit down with a board and play, fixed number of people.
Right.
And people take turn to play.
Yeah.
Therefore, each person only play 25% of the time. So for children particularly, okay, it sometimes they lost patience.
Sure.
If you imagine you have to wait 75% of the time
Sure.
until your turn.
Yeah.
In between time, you get bored.
Sure.
So because of that, I created a Scramble game. I feel that let everybody play same time. So there's no dull moment. Anybody can play at the same time. How you do that? And I created a Scramble. Say, okay, when the letters come up, everybody can focus on the letters. Let's say on the board
Sure.
to spell the word. If you did first, then you get it. Okay. If letters keep coming up, if someone else can make a word to change your word by adding a letter, that's why it's called Scramble, make a longer word, then they will steal your word and win over. So this would be a competitive, stimulating game.
Yeah.
And from a learning point of view, it's built in that you're learning words from shorter words to longer words and more complicated words. Whereas in Scrabble, you are fixed with 7-letter, that's the tiles that they allow you to have.
Sure.
So you're sort of limited by that lens, first
Yeah.
of all. And because they have to make words adjacent to each other, so the way strategically people play will make short words of 2-letter, 3-letter word, together.
Right.
And when you do this repetitively, you will basically learn only a few sets of 2-letter words. You know how many 2-letter words are there in the dictionary?
How many?
Used to be 96. The Scrabble guys, every year or every few years, to revise the dictionary. So now it's 103.
Really?
Okay. So it's still only 100-some words.
Yeah.
Now, the 2-letter word is critical because in Scrabble, this adjacent letter make a word is very important. So that 100 words, if you memorize it, you will be a good Scrabble player.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Whereas in Scramble, there's no limit.
Yeah.
You make a 2-letter word. If I add a letter, change it, become 3-letter. I add 2 letters, become 4-letter, become 5-letter. I steal away. Okay. So that's the principle of the Scramble word game.
Yeah.
Now, in addition to that, I did some sort of research, and I feel that one game is not going to keep the kids' interest forever. And I want to help the school, I want to help the teacher to have a portfolio of games. So the Scramble games now has grown, okay, to more than 30 ways of playing. You can play Scramble poker, 5-card poker, 7-card poker, or even Texas Hold'em. Okay, you can play Scramble bingo. You can play Scramble mahjong. You can play Scramble crossword. Okay, and I have written a book about at least 20 of them, and I want to continue to do this and revise this because I feel in school, teacher has a tough time to deal with kids and keep their attention. So they need tools. They need these interesting games that people will not get bored. Once they are hooked, in fact, we can tell our audience, some kids, they come back, okay, repeat, 1 time, 2 times, and as long as they have time, they like to come back to play. That shows they're not bored about the games, okay? And most of the time, we even haven't exhausted this number of games we can play, okay? So I hope you got some idea about this game, and pass the word around, and bring kids ask.
Maybe I'll bring my campaign staff down here.
Oh yes, what's his name? Francisco.
Yeah, Rob.
Rob.
He does spell wrong every once in a while here and there on press releases. So,
okay, good. All right. Now, before we sort of end the show, we probably have to end because we have a game coming up.
Sure.
All right. I want to ask you about a legislature that the PTA, local PTA organization is very concerned about.
Yeah.
And I am a PTA member. Now, they are trying to get a piece of legislature passed to exempt the sales tax for the PTA to sell books,
right, the book fairs,
or fundraising. Okay?
Yeah.
And I think it's a good idea because, first of all, it doesn't reduce much tax revenue per se, okay, but reduce a tremendous amount of work that the PTA has to do.
I'm actually co-sponsoring a piece of legislation like that, and anything that I can ever do to cut taxes, any input that I get to cut taxes, I do it. So I don't care whether it's a tax on a stick of bubble gum, or a tax on that beautiful tie that you're wearing, or a tax on a book fair. I'm all for cutting it, especially when it helps our local PTAs.
Very good. So that is already, the bill is in.
It's it'll be on the floor. It should come up to a vote.
Okay. And citizens can do is, of course, call their assemblyman or call their senator.
Yeah, I would
bill.
say to ask Senator Leibell if you're in his district, and of course me, Assemblyman Ball, and all the other assemblymen and senators in the area.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
All right. Now, we still have a few minutes, okay? I think, is there anything on your mind that you would like to, this show actually is broadcast or cablecast into many towns, from south to New Rochelle, and north as Carmel and your, home territory.
Maybe I should say hi to my mom.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Hi, Mom. How are you? I would just say to the people out there that A, get involved, B, contact me at any time. My cell phone number is 917-681-9302. I'm here to help. I'm here to serve. My office is your office, my office. is aimed to give a direct line to the New York State Assembly. You have a direct line to the legislature that I will say what needs to be heard, and I will fight day in and day out, do it with pleasure, and I just ask people in the community to get involved, support me in these efforts, and I'll support them in the efforts that are of concern to them and their families.
Your office is in Carmel. I've been there once, but
Right.
I think you can describe to people how to get there, because
Yeah, it's not far from the Westchester County line, and we are in Carmel on Old Route 6, and it's in the Donald B. Smith Government Campus. Anybody who wants to have an appointment with me in my office, it's 845-225-5038. That's 845-225-5038. And contact me, come visit me anytime.
good. Before I let you go,
Yep.
okay,
I don't have to spell potato, do I?
You don't have to do that. I know you know how to spell. I just want to mention one thing. When I first time drove to your office, I took this route passing through the reservoir. And
Beautiful.
Beautiful thing. I noticed on this Croton Falls, the train station there, a lot of cars parked, okay? It just strikes me that somehow, someday, I'm sure the community already aware of that. It
sounds like you should head a task force for my assembly office and help us do a feasibility study on a vertical parking garage. And maybe we'll even put a green rooftop on it so we don't have to worry about all the runoff into the Croton watershed. And I'd be more than happy to support it.
Yeah, well, we all for creative.
Can we shake a hand? Can I have you head that task force?
I already promised you. I promise you can tap me as a human resources.
Very good.
Right. So
Thank
welcome to our show, and we'll certainly welcome you again.
I've been studying all night because I thought I was actually going to have to spell. It's good to know that.
Next time we'll have you to play with the kids.
Very good.
And you're certainly welcome to stay. When the kids come on and play the game, you'll see how exciting it is.
Great.
All right.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Good.
Now, I'd like to say a few words to the audience, and this is a great pleasure for us to have Mr. Greg Ball as our guest. We know the kids are coming here for games, but sometimes we feel that inviting a guest, particularly having something to say to the children, educate them, is very, very important. So today we're happy that we have our assemblyman here. Now, following this, we'll have our regular game, and kids are waiting, so we'll not delay any further. Thank you for watching. Now we're back to our Scramble game show. We had an interesting session with our assemblyman, Mr. Greg Ball. I hope you enjoyed the conversation and what he does for us in Albany. Now we are back to our regular game, and today I have Zach here to help me. He will help me to put the cards up, okay? And we have 6 players, okay? I'm going to introduce each one of you. From left, this is Michelle, right? Okay, you can tell me where you're from.
I'm from Primrose.
Primrose,
Second grade.
second grade. Okay, next.
I'm Michael, and I was from the USA, and I go to Primrose too in second grade, and I love kangaroos.
Oh, very good. You like kangaroos. All right, next.
I'm Jeffrey. I'm in SIS and I'm 8.
You're 8-year-old and you are a third grader?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm Jerry Chang, and I'm in SIS, and I am 8 years old, and I'm in third grade.
Also third grade. Mm-hmm.
I'm Gabby, and I'm in SIS in 4th grade, and I'm 9 years old.
Okay.
I'm Jeanette, and I'm from SIS, and I'm 8 years old too.
Okay. All right. I just noticed, I didn't check your grade before. It now appears to me you want to play team, and 2 teams here. And this team, a younger team. This team is an older team, right?
That's okay.
That's okay. See, that's the spirit, right? So the 2 second graders and the third grader will play against 2 fourth grader, or 1 fourth grader, 2 third graders, right? Okay. let's begin. All right, Zach, shall we begin? Okay, you give me the cards, or you put the cards on this. I will